Yes, Viraj.
Okay. Namaste. Namaste and good evening, everybody. Welcome on behalf of Indian section to today's session on Mahatma letters. Let us begin this session by the Universal Invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. So good evening and welcome once again. We are studying this book on the letters from the Masters of the Wisdom, first series. And today is the second session, which will be taken by Brother Bhaskar Tendulkar ji. We will be studying letter number 1 to 5. I welcome Brother Tendulkar ji to begin the session today.
Thank you, Vibhaji. We commence study of letter number 1 from the letters from the Masters of Wisdom. And we have seen last time that this is a letter, though from Master K.H., actually it is dictated verbatim by Mahachohan to Master K.H. And Jidaraja Das has described this letter as the most important letter ever received from the adept teachers. Simply because all other letters are received from the masters, while this letter is from the Mahachohan, which is at a still higher level than the masters, and for whose insight the future lies like an open page, as Master K.H. had said in another letter. So here we get a very broad idea about the purpose and the work of the Theosophical Society. We will now start with the slides. I request Vibhaji to display the next slide. I think slide number 5 probably. Once unfettered and delivered from their dead weight of dogmatic personal names, anthropomorphic conceptions, and priests, the fundamental doctrines of all religions will be proved identical in their esoteric meaning. So here it has been said that religions are many and different, but fundamentally they are, or their doctrines are all alike. They will be proved identical in their esoteric meaning. Why they appear different? Because we only go by the exoteric religion in its outer form, in the rites we perform or the practices we follow as pertaining to a particular religion. And we really do not bother or make any sincere efforts to understand the real nature and teachings of the religion. There is more of blind follow-ons, imitation on the part of majority of followers. And therefore, middlemen in religion, the priests, the mullahs, Maulavis, all they have achieved a significant position in bringing religion to the masses. Therefore, there is loss of touch or contact with the real teachings of the religion, so far a common man is concerned. All of us have to get rid of our own ego, the illusory apparent self, to recognize our true self in a transcendental divine life. But if we would not be selfish, we must strive to make other people see that truth, to recognize the reality of that transcendental self, the Buddha, the Christ, or God of every preacher. So here the emphasis is not only on personal spiritual progress, but for a theosophist, what is important is to get rid of one's own ego, to recognize our true nature, and live life in a selfless manner. One should live not for oneself, but for others. We must strive to make other people see that truth. So, selfishness must go in imparting spiritual knowledge, the truth, to others. It's not for keeping it to ourselves and for our own spiritual progress. The real purpose of religion or the religious teachings will be served not only by living life in a religious manner, but making other people also religious, making other people also see the truth which religion want to propagate or spread among the masses, because it is for the whole humanity to benefit from religion, not only the selected few. That's why in the last lecture also we have seen that masters have said, or Mahachohan had said, there must be intermixing of the highs and the lows. The classes of the society, whether they are superior, inferior, there should be no consideration of racial or communal or national or linguistic superiority or inferiority. There must be an object of bringing our neighbor, our fellows along with us, by helping them, by teaching them, by enlightening them, whatever is possible for us where we stand. Next, Vibhaji, next slide. Religion, with the exception of Buddhism, has hitherto taught a practical contempt for this earthly life, while each of them, always with that one exception, has, through its hells and damnations, inculcated the great fear of death. Therefore, do we find that struggle for life raging most fiercely in Christian countries, most prevalent in Europe and America. So what religions have taught us? They have They taught us about these ideas of hell and heaven, damnations inculcated. There is a fear of death, and there is also solution through vicarious atonement, ideas of papa, punya. But here is the truth. The struggle for life doesn't end with these teachings. In fact, it spreads only fear and a sense of insecurity about present life and also what lies ahead in future. Teach the people to see that life on this earth, even the happiest, is but a burden and an illusion. The religions are expected to teach this reality, that it is all an illusion in which we are living our life. Whether happiness or sorrow, they are all temporary features. They are not of lasting nature. What is really important is the karma which we perform. Our own karma decides our own future, because that is the cause which produces the effect. So our present karma will be our future savior in life. And therefore, all the emphasis should be on the performance of right karma. That is our own judge, our savior in future lives. And the great struggle for life will soon lose its intensity. And this is what religion is expected to teach the masses. How this struggle will end unless we recognize the importance of the karma which we perform. Instead of performing right karma, we only pray, we only demand, ask, without doing anything in the nature of right karma, under a mistaken belief that we can please the God and obtain merits, which is far away from the truth and actualities of life. And religions must come forward to teach their followers this truth, but which is not happening. And therefore, Theosophy has to take the leading role in bringing this truth to the masses. Next. Vibhaji, next slide. Perish rather the Theosophical Society with both its hapless founders, then that we should the masters here are saying that they would rather prefer to perish along with the Theosophical Society if Theosophical Society does not perform this role for which it is established. It has to spread this truth that universal brotherhood is the only basis of universal morality. And it is only through establishment of this universal brotherhood that we will be able to end this struggle for life, which is bringing all the misery. There is unity at the Buddhic level. That is, the brotherhood is a fact in nature. But because of our ignorance of that truth or reality, we are not allowing that reality to manifest on the physical plane. we are caught up in duality of truth and falsehood, pleasure and pain. And unless we rise above this duality, we will not be able to achieve the goal of the theosophical movement. We rather render theosophical society as an academy of magic or a hall of occultism only for privileged few. That is what persons like A.O. Hume were expecting. Even A.P. Sinnett, they never really realized the real purpose of the Theosophical Society. Spiritual progress was no doubt their aim, but it was a spiritual progress for a privileged few, chosen few, who had the privilege of coming in contact with the masters and their teachings. But masters are not interested in privileged few. They are interested in the whole of humanity. They are interested that this privileged few who get the benefit of this truth are in a position to live life in the light of that wisdom, that truth, and don't stop at that level, but they spread it to the whole of humanity. And that's why there should be intermixing of the highs and the lows. The masses at large must benefit by the theosophical movement. And that should be borne in mind by every theosophist. Theosophist is a philanthropist. He lives not for himself, but for others. And therefore, this knowledge which he gets as his privilege must be spread, propagated to as many people as possible who are capable of receiving it, who need it because they are under the curtain of illusion. And that curtain must be removed with light of wisdom. Next. Vibhaji.
Sir, I have put it. Slide number 8. It is visible?
No.
I have shared it, sir.
Tendulkar ji, now it
I
is
will
there.
proceed further. What the masters say further is that they cannot afford theosophy to become an embodiment of selfishness. They cannot allow that to happen. It should be an embodiment of self-sacrifice. Buddha himself was an embodiment of self-sacrifice and would never allow TS to become embodiment of selfishness. They have also mentioned about Tibetan lamas who relinquish even the highest attainment of Buddhahood at the time of their death in incarnation as Bodhisattva. They prefer to undergo imprisonment in flesh and misery again and again, masters expect theosophists to correct the impression of outsiders about TS. And this is by living life like a theosophist. Because unless we place before the masses a living example of what theosophical teachings are, we will not be able either to take our teachings, which have to become triumphant ultimately as masters foresee it, will be only through the living examples of theosophy. Religion and philosophy must offer solution of every problem of life. That is what they say. But at the same time, they comment that all religions which have been formed in recent years have failed to offer solution for problems of life. None has succeeded in solving problems of great dual principles. And therefore, Master emphasizes that our doctrine of theosophy, is competent to offer a consistent solution to the problems of life. And it will ultimately prove to be true philosophy and religion. That's why they have said that theosophy is the cornerstone of the future religions. It is the foundation of the future religions. And that role has to be understood and played by every sincere theosophist. So that is, in substance, what the rest of the Mahachohan's letter says to the members of the Theosophical Society. I will now move on to letter number 2. Vibhaji, can you start with slide of letter number 2?
Yes, sir. I've shared it now.
Oh, somehow it's not coming on my screen.
Is it visible to the others?
Yes, yes, it is visible. Directly
Yes, it is quite
visible.
visible, quite visible.
Visible. Tendulkar ji. Or you go through your notings. तेंदुलकर जी, आप अनम्यूट करिए. हेलो.
Hello.
हाँ, आप आ गया. आप स्टार्ट करिए.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So, while offering greetings to the delegates, the master appeals to all to make the convention successful. But at the same time, he cautions them that it is a challenging thing to make it successful, because there are evil wishers, there are enemies who are obstructing the movement. We have a strong cause based on rock of truth, and it cannot be impeded, provided we are all united and we act in concert. So that is the requirement which we should bear in mind all the time. It is a challenge for the Theosophists if they want to spread the Theosophical movement throughout the world. We must have confidence in the movement because it is based on rock of truth. It is based on a very strong cause. And only a determined Theosophist can accept this challenge by working against the odds and proving himself. That's why Master says, be true, loyal to pledge, loyal to the sacred duty which you have undertaken, loyal to your nation, and lastly, loyal to your own conscience. This is all on one side. At the same time, Master says, be tolerant to others, respect others' religious views. This is applicable even today. If we look at the present political and social climate in the country, perhaps there is need to follow this advice of the masters, perhaps at the most urgent basis. Master says we are sons of old Aryavarta. We are children of one mother, of her blood or adopted children. So here he is referring to all population, not only the original residents of Aryavarta, but all those who have come subsequently to this subcontinent and have become Indians, children of this mother, Aryavarta. And therefore he is asking all to be tolerant to others, to respect others' religious views. And this is what we have to spread as a message of Theosophy to the present generation. He says, you are Theosophists. Theosophy is the mother of all old religions. Unfortunately, our mother has been forsaken, repudiated by ungrateful children of her own. So this is a direct comment of our ingratitude to our mother. This is not addressed to any particular section of the society. This is for all. And everybody has to learn a lesson from this advice of Mahachohan. Here he reminds us that we have done many mistakes in the past year. That is the year before the convention. And assures that it will be forgiven, provided we work in a right spirit with new hopes for the new year. So he assures of a bright future if we show the courage to correct our behavior, to understand our past mistakes, and take a right path for the future. Then we move on to letter number 3. This is a letter received in London. To profit from esoteric teachings, harmony and unity of thought is essential. That is the point made here. Each individually and collectively must undertake this responsibility, each one. Each one should be unselfish, kind, full of goodwill towards each other. There should be no party spirit, no backbiting, no ill will, no jealousy, no contempt, no anger. So this is what we have to remember all the time while living our life as a theosophist. And correct ourselves all the time, because we are living in a climate, in an atmosphere. There is ill will towards others. We are jealous of our opponents. There is a contempt for every small or great thing. We are omitting anger towards others. All this must come to an end if really we want to serve the cause for which we stand. Master says, brotherly unity moves a large body of men as one single man. Here we must understand that society may consist of a large number of people, but if there is brotherhood, if there is brotherly unity, then that mass of men can become a single individual, Samaja Purusha. It can move like a large body of men as a single man. Single man endowed with one single heart and soul. These are the words of the masters. We must change. Change what? We must change our exclusive approach and attitudes. We are trying to separate ourselves from others. We have our policies, which are based on selfish considerations, which are based on party spirits, partialities. So, universal brotherhood must become a part and parcel of our being. We must act in harmony with parent body. That is another thing. Here, parent body is a word used for the Theosophical Society at Adyar, because this is written in the context of London Lodge at that time, or the attitude of certain theosophists who were more concerned with their ideas of esotericism, either Christian esotericism or Buddhist esotericism. So instead of finding similarities and developing harmony, there was insistence on finding differences, dissimilarities, and creating conflicts. If there is no harmony with the parent body, then the movement will fail. We must promote solidarity amongst ourselves. The whole of the Theosophical Society must act as a single body. It's a hard task to combine poor material into strong, perfect organization. Masters say that we have got lot of poor material. This poor material is nowhere else within ourselves. We, the members of the Theosophical Society, have to convert ourselves from this poor material into a pure, strong material, which ultimately will become a strong, perfect body, organization. Future of Theosophical movement depends on inner circle. That is what masters have also said. And if that inner circle has to be blamed if the things don't improve, this is particularly in the context of the conflicts which were going on in those days. And therefore, there is much emphasis on reorganization and regeneration of the prevailing situation and prevailing state of the organization. Then we move on to letter number 4. This letter number 4 is addressed to Miss Francesca Arundel in Germany. She was the treasurer of the London Lodge. Let us see what the master says to Miss Francesca. He says that pure virtuous life is a negative goodness. It's not enough to be only pure and good. It is not enough for chelaship, because most of the members of the London Lodge were aspiring to become chelas. But unfortunately, most of them were lacking the prerequisites for this chelaship. Master says, learn. But learn for what? Learn that you may teach. So learning is not for keeping that knowledge with ourselves and to become knowledgeable. But learning is meant to spread that learning to others, so that others stand to benefit from that knowledge. And he says, it is true for a member, but much more so for an officer of the Theosophical Society. Because Francesca was the treasurer of the London Lodge. And therefore, this is a greater responsibility on the part of the office bearers of the lodges and federations and sections and international body. He says, acquire spiritual knowledge and thereby acquire spiritual strength, so that sorrowing victims of ignorance, ignorant masses may learn. There are victims of ignorance in the world. Struggle of life is going on because of that ignorance, because of that sorrow, that misery. That is the cause and pain, but there is also a remedy of the pain. And that remedy is our knowledge. Master says to Francesca, your home should become a center of spiritualizing influence. though this is addressed to Francesca, this is applicable to every theosophist, particularly to the officers of the Theosophical Society who hold greater responsibility, greater privilege, greater authority by virtue of the position they hold and scope they have got to work for the society and for the masses. He says, do good by encouraging visits of fellow members and inquirers. All this is applicable to us also today in our lodges, in our federations. We have to encourage visits of fellow members. When this will happen, we have to keep our lodges open for as many days as possible, for as long of the day as possible, so that more and more number of people can come forward to inquire, to meet, to get the right idea of what Theosophical Society is and what Theosophy is and how it can be a solution for their problems. We have to hold meetings as frequently as possible. We have to reach the people who are congenial to us, who are congenial for study, congenial for instructions, who are receptive, sensitive, who can benefit from the teachings. We have to identify such people. If they are not in a position to approach us, we must approach them. That's why Master says, induce others to do likewise. It's not only for us to do this, but we have to induce others to do likewise. We have to make lodge meetings interesting so that people will take greater interest in the working of the lodge. They can participate more and they can benefit more. We must take new members in hand. We must assign to them duties according to their background, their caliber, their interest, and involve them more and more. And then we can also instruct them thoroughly. So this is for the older members, especially the office bearers of the lodges. There is one more comment of the Master in this letter, that is about the ceremony of initiation. Master observes that in London Lodge, this was not done in a dignified manner. He says it is done in an undignified haste. And it is worse, he says. There are English prejudices coming in the way of administering this ceremony of initiation. He says it is a standing insult to the chela, and it provokes Master's displeasure. So this is something which is applicable, which was applicable in those days. We have to also learn, if we can, in present circumstances, how this can be interpreted so far as the aspirants are concerned, who are eager to seek their spiritual progress and who should also be motivated to work for the spiritual progress of others. Master says initiation is a secret thing with masters. He also advises that one should always remember that he is a theosophist first before an Englishman. This is again addressed to the members of the London Lodge, that's why Englishman. But it is also applicable to the citizen of every country. every nation. We are theosophists first, then we may be our nationalities, because theosophy is an international thing. It is not conditioned by nationality. Therefore, we must work for the nation, but we should not, we must be loyal to our nation. All those things are granted, but we should never forget that we are theosophists first. He has advised to the old members that make your life theosophical, not public scribes or clerks. He says, you are not public scribes or clerks, or even people used to take their personal problems to the masters through the communications. They used to say that first digest the teachings already given. Master your palpable vices and weaknesses, and then talk about chelaships. People aspire for great spiritual progress without preparing the essential foundation which is necessary for spiritual progress. That's why Master is advising these things, to digest and digest the teachings and master the palpable vices and weaknesses which we have. Masters say, we demand deeds. There are many members who talk many things, good things, use kind words, talk about their high intentions. But Master says, these things count very little for us. What we do is more important than what we talk. It's no use being only goody-goody in our talk, in our manners, etiquettes. What we do is much more important. He emphasizes the theory of karma vis-a-vis theory of vicarious atonement, and emphasizes that karma is the only thing that matters. It is the cause producing the effects, and therefore it is our savior in future life. What we have done in the past life, we have to work out in this life. But what is in our hand is what we can do in this incarnation and lay a foundation for our future. Struggle for spiritual wisdom has to be there, but it is not for self alone. It is for our fellow men, for our associates. We have come to Theosophy not by a chance or by an accident. It is not our first dealing with Theosophy, Master says, for every one of us. It is the continuation of the interrupted beginnings of the last birth. And we have to work out the results of those interrupted beginnings of the last birth. So every one of us has to remember this fact of reality, that we have started this long back in earlier incarnations. And that is what has brought us presently into the Theosophical Society. And we are here to work out those results of the interrupted beginnings, not alone, but along with our associates. because our associates have also come because of this past karma of the past incarnation. So we have made a beginning, but we have had it interrupted because of our past karma. We could not fulfill it in those incarnations, and we have to fulfill it now in this incarnation and in the incarnations that follow. So this is not only for one life, but life's ahead. That is the struggle for spiritual wisdom. And that struggle has to be worked out along with our associates. So there we come to the end of the letter 4. And finally, letter 5 is not a letter, but it is a sort of draft memorandum prepared by the inner group of the London Lodge. They had formed an inner group independent of the London Lodge, but as a part of the London Lodge. Because they felt those who were sincere aspirants for spiritual progress and who believed in the masters and in their teachings, they had implicit confidence in that. But all were not supporting them. In fact, the majority members of the London Lodge were not at all harmonious, not at all sympathetic to each other, and therefore the atmosphere prevailing there is not conducive for spiritual teachings and spiritual progress. That's why they formed this separate group, about 22 members of the London Lodge, signed this memorandum and approached through HPB to the master. And that was on the condition accepted by the masters that there must be unswerving obedience. This is what HPB added to that. There must be unswerving obedience to master's wishes in order to attain spiritual progress. There should be implicit confidence in the Mahatmas, in their existence, in their teachings. And it was also added that if somebody does not and cannot live life according to this promise and pledge, then he can live. And he can live without imputation of dishonorable conduct if he withdraws from the pledge. And this was subject to these conditions, was accepted by both the masters, Master M and KH. They have signed this memorandum in acceptance after all 22 members had put in their signatures individually. And that's how this inner group started receiving teachings. There was also a problem as to who will be passing on these teachings to the members, because masters did not want to, Master M particularly, to impose it upon HPB, who had done this earlier for her guru. Master M was her guru. But Master M had said that he does not want to force her to do it against her wishes. And he doesn't find anybody else. He has mentioned few names like Damodar Maulankar or M.M. Chatterjee and many others, none of whom he could find suitable for this task. And therefore, HPB had to perform that task. But ultimately, that group also failed because of their inner deficiencies, weaknesses. That was perhaps the beginning of the esoteric school, which was later on formally established in 1888. I think I will stop here so that there will be time for translation in Hindi and also for questions and answers. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your kind listening to my lecture.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for explaining these letters to us. Letter
Thank
number
you,
1.
Rajesh. Yes.
Okay, I now request Sister Meenakshi ji to give us the translation in Hindi.
Namaste. Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother Tendulkar ji.
Thank you, everyone.
आज हम लेटर
Thank you, Meenakshi.
नंबर 1, 2, 3, 4 और 5 ले रहे हैं. लेटर नंबर 1, यह पत्र बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण पत्र है जिसमें थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी पर महाचौहान के विचार है. वे कहते हैं, यदि एक बार जब मनुष्य अपने हठधर्मी विवेचनाओं, वैयक्तिक नामों, अवतारवादी धारणाओं और वेतनभोगी पुजारियों के जड़ भार से मुक्त होने के बाद सभी धर्मों के मूलभूत सिद्धांत उनके गूढ़ अर्थों में समान साबित होंगे. ओसिरिस, कृष्ण, बुद्ध, क्राइस्ट, यह परमानंद निर्वाण के लिए एक ही राजमार्ग के लिए अलग अलग साधनों के रूप में दिखाए जाएंगे. अपने सच्चे स्व को अलौकिक दिव्यत्व में पहचानने के लिए हम सभी को अपने स्वयं के अहंकार, भ्रामक आभासी स्व से मुक्ति पानी होगी. लेकिन अगर हम स्वार्थी नहीं हैं, तब हमें दूसरे लोगों ने उस सत्य को देखने का प्रयास करना चाहिए. उस अलौकिक आत्मा, बुद्ध, क्राइस्ट या प्रत्येक उपदेशक के ईश्वर की सत्यता को पहचानने का प्रयास करना चाहिए. बौद्ध धर्म को छोड़कर किसी भी धर्म ने अब तक सांसारिक जीवन के वास्तविक विडंबना को नहीं सिखाया. उस एक अपवाद को छोड़कर उनमें से प्रत्येक ने नरक और अभिशापों के माध्यम से मृत्यु का सबसे बड़ा भय प्रत्यारोपित किया. इसीलिए हम क्रिश्चियन देशों में जीवन के लिए अधिक उग्रता से संघर्ष देखते हैं. यह यूरोप और अमेरिका में सबसे अधिक फैला है. लोगों को यह देखना सिखाए कि इस धरती पर का जीवन केवल एक बोझ है और भ्रम है. यहाँ तक कि सबसे सुखी जीवन भी, कि यह केवल हमारे अपने कर्म है जो परिणाम के निर्माण का कारण है. वही हमारा न्यायक है. भविष्य के जन्मों का हम उद्धार करता है. भविष्य के जन्मों का हमारा उद्धार करता है. जीवन के लिए महान संघर्ष जल्द ही अपनी तीव्रता खो देगा. हमने थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को सिर्फ एक जादू की एकेडमी और गूढ़ विद्या का भवन बनने का परवाना देने के बजाय थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को उसके दोनों असहाय संस्थापकों के साथ मिट जाने दे. परम स्व परित्याग के साकार रूप, परोपकारिता, दिव्य करुणा, दुखमयी धरती पर प्राप्त होने वाले सभी सर्वोच्च सद्गुणों के सत्पुरुष गौतम बुद्ध के हम समर्पित अनुयायी, क्या हम थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को कभी भी स्वार्थ की प्रतिमूर्ति का प्रतीक होने देंगे? चंद लोगों का शरण स्थान बनाने की अनुमति देंगे जिनके मन में बहुसंख्यकों के लिए कोई विचार नहीं है? यह अजीब विचार है. बोधिसत्व, पद्मपाणि या अवलोकितेश्वर और सोंकापा, अमिताभ के अवतार अपनी मृत्यु के समय बुद्धत्व की प्राप्ति यानी परमानंद का और वैयक्तिक परम कल्याण का त्याग करते हैं ताकि वे मानवता के कल्याण हेतु बार बार जन्म ले सके. दूसरे शब्दों में कहा जाए तो जीवन के सभी दुखों में भौतिक शरीर में कैद वे बार बार विपत्तियों का सामना कर सकते हैं, बशर्ते कि ऐसे आत्मत्याग से लंबे और अवसादपूर्ण शतकों के दौरान वे शायद मानवता के अनेक जातियों में से कुछ गिने चुने मनुष्य के मोक्ष और परमानंद पाने का साधन बन सके। और हम जो इन परिपूर्ण लामाओं के शिष्य हैं, हमसे थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को मानस शास्त्र का या मनोविज्ञान का साधारण विद्यालय बनने के लिए, मानवता के बंधुत्व को छोड़ने के लिए, सोसाइटी के महानतम उद्देश्यों को छोड़ने की अनुमति देने की अपेक्षा की जाती है। नहीं मेरे अच्छे बंधुओं, आप बहुत पहले से ही गलत धारणा में हैं। सोसाइटी के कार्य करने के उदात्त विचार को जो भी पर्याप्त रूप से समझने के लिए स्वयं को लायक नहीं समझता, उसने अधिक गंभीर कार्य को स्वीकारना नहीं चाहिए। इस दिव्य कार्य को भारत में प्रभावी रूप से करने में हमारी मदद करने वाले उस महान और निस्वार्थ व्यक्ति का कर्ज चुकाने के लिए हमारा सारा अतीत और वर्तमान ज्ञान भी पर्याप्त नहीं होगा। सही मायने में धर्म और तत्वज्ञान ने हर समस्या का समाधान प्रस्तुत करना चाहिए। दुनिया नैतिक रूप से इतनी बुरी स्थिति में है, यह एक निर्णायक सबूत है कि किसी भी सभ्य जातियों के धर्मों और तत्वज्ञान में कभी सच्चाई नहीं थी। महान द्वैत सिद्धांत सही और गलत, अच्छाई और बुराई, स्वतंत्रता और निरंकुशता, दुख, दर्द और सुख, अहंकार और परोपकारिता की समस्याओं के विषय पर सही और तार्किक स्पष्टीकरण जितना 1881 के पहले असंभव था, उतना आज भी है। वे समाधान से उतने ही दूर हैं जितने कि कभी थे, लेकिन इनके लिए कहीं ना कहीं एक तर्कसंगत समाधान होना चाहिए। और यदि हमारे सिद्धांत इसे पेश करने की क्षमता दिखाएंगे, तो दुनिया सबसे पहले यह स्वीकार करेगी कि वह सच्चा तत्वज्ञान, सच्चा धर्म, सच्चा प्रकाश ही है, जो सच और सच की सिवाय कुछ नहीं देता। अभी हम लेटर नंबर 2 में आ रहे हैं, जो कि अड्यार में थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी के 26 दिसंबर 1883 के कन्वेंशन के दौरान डेलीगेट्स के लिए मास्टर KH के आशीर्वचन है। वे कहते हैं, हिंदू, पारसी, बौद्ध, अंग्रेजी और अन्य प्रतिनिधियों को और साथ ही उपस्थित साथियों को अभिवादन। याद रखें कि विभिन्न राष्ट्रीयताओं और धर्मों के होते हुए भी आप लगभग एक ही भारत माता की संतान है। यह याद रखें और उसके अनुसार कार्य करें। आपको वार्षिकोत्सव समारोह को भव्य रूप में सफल बनाना है। आपको अपने अनिष्ट चिंतकों को और शत्रुओं को यह साबित करना होगा कि आपका उद्देश्य सच्चाई की चट्टान पर स्थित और प्रबल होने के कारण निस्संदेह किसी भी विपक्ष द्वारा इसकी प्रगति में कभी भी बाधा नहीं डाली जा सकती है, चाहे वह कितना भी शक्तिशाली क्यों न हो। यदि आप सभी एकजुटता से मिलकर कार्य करेंगे, तो अपनी प्रतिज्ञा के प्रति, अपने पवित्र कर्तव्य के प्रति, अपने देश के प्रति, अपने अंतःचेतना के प्रति सच्चे रहे, निष्ठावान रहे, दूसरों के प्रति सहिष्णु रहे, दूसरों के धार्मिक विचारों का आदर करें। यदि आप अपने धार्मिक विचारों के प्रति सम्मान चाहते हैं, पुरातन आर्यवर्त के भारत के सपूतों, चाहे अपनाए हुए या उसके अपने सपूत हो, याद रखें कि आप थियोसॉफिस्ट हैं और थियोसॉफी या ब्रह्म विज्ञा हर पुराने धर्मों की जननी है। हालांकि वह अब अपने अधिकांश कृतज्ञ संतानों द्वारा छोड़ी गई और परित्यागित है। इसे याद रखें, तदनुसार कार्य करें और बाकी उचित समय पर होगा। जिन्होंने पिछले साल विचार और कर्म से अपराध किए हैं, उन्होंने और अधिक कर्म नहीं जोड़ने चाहिए। व्यक्तिशः उन्हें माफ किया जा रहा है। उनके लिए एक नया साल और नई उम्मीदें शुरू हो। आत्म शुद्धिकरण की प्रक्रिया एक क्षण का कार्य नहीं है, न ही कुछ महीनों का या सालों का, बल्कि अनेक जन्मों का है। अपने जीवन काल में मनुष्य जितने बाद में या देरी से उच्च उदात्त जीवन जीना शुरू करता है, उसकी परिवीक्षा अवधि यानी पीरियड ऑफ प्रोबेशन उतनी ही लंबी होती है, क्योंकि उसे मूल लक्ष्य के बिल्कुल विपरीत विषयों में बिताए गए लंबे वर्षों के प्रभावों को पूर्ववत करना होता है। आगे लेटर नंबर 3, यह मास्टर मौर्य ने लिखा है और HPB ने रिसीव किया है लंदन में। लंदन के इनर ग्रुप के लिए यह निर्देश है, उपदेश है। मास्टर कहते हैं, मिस्टर सिनेट को मास्टर KH के पत्रों को हस्तांतरित करने में यदि कोई मिलता भी हो, तो न तो लंदन लॉज के इनर सर्कल और न ही संपूर्ण रूप से लंदन लॉज अभी इस स्थिति में है कि अभिलाषित निर्देश का लाभ उठा सके, उन्हें शांति से प्राप्त कर सके। गूढ़ सिद्धांतों के साधकों का एक समूह जो आध्यात्मिक रूप से कुछ लाभ प्राप्त करेंगे, उन्हें पूर्ण सामंजस्य और विचार की एकता में होना चाहिए। प्रत्येक को व्यक्तिगत रूप से और सामूहिक रूप से एक दूसरे के प्रति पूरी तरह से निस्वार्थ, दयालु और बाकी मानव जाति को तो छोड़ो, कम से कम आपस में सद्भावना पूर्ण होना चाहिए। समूह के भीतर गठबाजी नहीं होनी चाहिए। कोई चुगली नहीं, निंदा नहीं, कोई दुर्भावना नहीं, ईर्ष्या या जलन नहीं, तिरस्कार या क्रोध नहीं होना चाहिए। जिस कारण एक को दुख होता हो, उस कारण दूसरे को भी दुख होना चाहिए, और जिससे अ को खुशी होती हो, उसमें ब को आनंद होना चाहिए। लंदन लॉज में हाल ही में हो रही परेशानियों का सिलसिला जल्द ही निपट गया होता और उनमें से अधिकांश को टाला जा सकता यदि वहां सच्ची बंधुत्वपूर्ण एकता होती, जो मनुष्य के बड़े समूहों को एक अकेले व्यक्ति के रूप में कार्य करने को प्रेरित करता है, जिसमें एक ही हृदय और आत्मा हो। लंदन लॉज का अस्तित्व टिकाने के लिए उसकी अभी तक की विशिष्ट और स्वार्थपर नीति को बदलना होगा। यदि उसे थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी का हिस्सा बनना है, तो उसे विश्व बंधुत्व का अहम हिस्सा बनना होगा। उसे मुख्य शाखा के साथ पूर्ण सामंजस्यता से कार्य करना होगा और संपूर्ण सोसाइटी के साथ उत्तम एकजुटता और एकात्मता को बढ़ावा देने का विचार करना होगा। सामर्थ्यवान और परिपूर्ण संगठन, आदर्शपूर्ण संगठन में निम्न प्रति के लोगों को का मिलना वास्तव में एक कठिन काम है। फिर भी थियोसॉफी के आंदोलन का भविष्य इनर सर्कल के सदस्यों पर निर्भर करता है। जैसे होना चाहिए वैसे यदि यह सुसंगठित नहीं किया गया, तब उन्हें खुद को ही दोष देना होगा। लेटर नंबर 4, यह मास्टर KH फ्रांसिस्का अरुंडेल को लिखते हैं। फ्रांसिस्का अरुंडेल जो कि लंदन लॉज की ट्रेजरर थी। मास्टर कहते हैं, यह पर्याप्त नहीं है कि आप एक शुद्ध पवित्र सदाचारी जीवन और सहिष्णुता का आदर्श रूप बने। यह सिर्फ नकारात्मक अच्छाई है और चेलाशिप के लिए यह उपयुक्त नहीं होगा। लॉज के अधिकारी के रूप में, एक साधारण सदस्य के रूप में भी आप जो सिखाएंगे उसे सीखना चाहिए। आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान और शक्ति प्राप्त करें ताकि कार्य का भार आप पर आए और अज्ञानता के कारण दुखी पीड़ित आपसे अपने दुख दर्द का कारण और निदान जान सके। यदि आप चाहें तब आप अपने घर को संपूर्ण दुनिया में आध्यात्मिक प्रभाव के सबसे महत्वपूर्ण केंद्रों में से एक बना सकते हैं। ऊर्जा शक्ति अभी वहां केंद्रित है और वही रहेगी यदि आप उसे क्षीण न करें, ठुकरा न दे, अपनी कृपा और अनुकूल स्थिति में बने रहे। अध्ययन और उपदेश निर्देश के लिए अनुकूल ऐसी मीटिंग्स का आयोजन करें। अपने साथी सदस्यों को और जिज्ञासुओं को सम्मिलित होने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करके आप बहुत बड़ा कार्य करेगी। आपको अन्य क्षेत्रों में भी ऐसा ही करने के लिए दूसरों को प्रेरित करना चाहिए। लॉज की जनरल मीटिंग्स को रोचक बनाने के लिए अपने सहयोगियों को सतत सलाह देनी चाहिए। नए मेंबर्स को शुरू से ही उन पुराने सदस्यों ने अपने नेतृत्व में लेना चाहिए जो विशेष रूप से चुने गए हो और प्रत्येक स्थिति के कार्य के लिए सौंपे गए हो। आपने जो पहले ही सीखा है पूरी तरह से उन्हें शिक्षित किया हो ताकि वे नित्य हो रही मीटिंग्स की कार्यवाही में समझदारी से भाग लेने में काबिल हो। शिक्षा समारोह पर इस तरह से उपेक्षा करने की प्रबल वृत्ति है कि कैंडिडेट्स पर कोई गहरा प्रभाव न पड़े। मुख्य सोसाइटी की पद्धति अंग्रेजी पूर्वधारणाओं के लिए अनुपयुक्त हो सकती है, फिर भी अविवेकी जल्दबाजी की विपरीतता में पड़ना बहुत बुरा है। आपके इनिशिएशन के तरीके प्रत्येक रेगुलर चेला का अनादर है और उनके मास्टर्स की नाराजगी को उकसाया है। वह यानी इनिशिएशन हमारे लिए पवित्रतम है, फिर आपके साथ ऐसा क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए? यदि सभी सदस्यों ने उस युवा लड़के के जो एक उत्कट उत्साही थियोसॉफिस्ट है उसके ज्ञानपूर्ण शब्दों को अपने आदर्श के रूप में अपनाया और बर्ट्राम काइटली के वाक्यों को दोहराएंगे कि एक अंग्रेज होने से पहले मैं एक थियोसॉफिस्ट हूँ, तब आपकी सोसाइटी को कभी भी कोई शत्रु परेशान नहीं करेगा। हालांकि पुराने मेंबर्स ने हमेशा यह स्मरण में रखना चाहिए और कैंडिडेट्स को सिखाना चाहिए कि यह एक गंभीर कार्य है जिसमें सोसाइटी लगी है और अपने स्वयं के जीवन को थियोसॉफिकल बनाकर उसी गंभीरता से कार्य की शुरुआत करें। याद रखें, यह कार्य संपूर्ण यूरोप के लिए है, केवल लंदन के लिए नहीं। अमेरिकी सदस्य बहुत ही प्रतिकूल स्थिति में हैं और संस्थापकों के जाने के बाद से अब तक उनके पास कोई सक्षम नेता नहीं है। आपकी शाखा उनकी मदद कर सकती है और करना भी चाहिए क्योंकि वे आपके समीप है, पड़ोसी हैं और हेडक्वार्टर्स के पास अन्य दिशा में कार्य करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है। याद रहे, हम सार्वजनिक लिपिक या क्लर्क नहीं हैं जो अलग अलग पत्र व्यवहारियों के साथ समय समय पर सतत उन प्रत्येक छोटे मोटे व्यक्तिगत मामलों पर भाष्य करे या उत्तर दे जिसे उन्हें स्वयं हल करना चाहिए। न ही हम उन प्राइवेट नोट्स को अब तक की तरह मुक्तता से आगे प्रसारित करने की अनुमति देंगे। जब जिज्ञासु ने पहले दी गई बातों को आत्मसात कर लिया हो और उसके विशिष्ट दोषों को और कमजोरियों पर महारत हासिल कर लिया हो, तभी चेलाशिप के शर्तों के बारे में विचार विनिमय करने का उचित समय होगा। आप अपने साथी सदस्यों को बता सकते हैं कि इरादे और विनम्रता हमारे लिए कम मायने रखती है। हम कृति चाहते हैं, कर्म चाहते हैं और उसकी मांग करते हैं। प्रतिनिधिक प्रायश्चित की धारणा ने अपना अपरिहार्य असर लाया है। केवल कर्म का ज्ञान ही इसकी भरपाई कर सकता है। क्या आपको लगता है कि आपके एकमात्र लाभ के लिए आपको सच्चाई दिखाई गई है कि कुछ मुट्ठी भर सपने देखने वालों के फायदे के लिए हमने सदियों की चुप्पी तोड़ी है? कर्म की परस्पर मिश्रित रेखाओं ने आप सभी को सोसाइटी में एक समान उद्देश्य से खींच लाया है ताकि पिछले जन्म में शुरू किए गए अपूर्ण कार्यों को पूर्ण करने में आप सभी मदद कर सके। आप में से कोई भी इतना नासमझ नहीं हो सकता कि यह मान ले कि यह थियोसॉफी के साथ आपका पहली बार व्यवहार है। आपको यह अवश्य समझना चाहिए कि यह उसी तरह होगा जैसे कारणों के बिना प्रभाव आए। तो जान ले कि यह अब आप में से प्रत्येक सदस्य पर निर्भर करता है कि कहीं आप इसके बाद इस जन्म में और अगले जन्म में आत्मविद्या के लिए अकेले ही संघर्ष करेंगे या अपने वर्तमान के साथी सहयोगियों के साथ में और पारस्परिक सहानुभूति और उच्च आकांक्षा की प्रचुर मदद से करेंगे। आगे का लेटर नंबर 5, यह पत्र मास्टर के एच, मास्टर मौर्य और HPB ने लिखा है। फ्रांसिस्का अरुंडेल ने लंदन लॉज में इनर ग्रुप के निर्माण के लिए बनाए गए प्रतिज्ञा पत्र में मास्टर के एच, मास्टर मौर्य और HPB भी लिखते हैं। फ्रांसिस्का अरुंडेल लिखती है, हाल ही में वे लिखती है कि कि लंदन लॉज के हम हस्ताक्षरित किए हुए सदस्य इस बात से आश्वस्त हैं कि साथी सदस्यों के बीच सहानुभूतिपूर्ण एकता के बिना आध्यात्मिक शिक्षण संभव नहीं। हम इनर ग्रुप के निर्माण की अभिलाषा रखते हैं। धर्म को व्यापक रूप में लेते हुए और उक्त ग्रुप के प्रत्येक सदस्य अपने स्वयं की धार्मिक प्रणाली या मतों का पालन करने के लिए उन्हें स्वतंत्र रखते हुए हम फिर भी इस तरह के सच्चे बंधुत्व का बंध स्थापित करना चाहते हैं ताकि शर्तों को हम महसूस करें जिनकी निर्मित की गई थी, जिनके बारे में हमें यकीन है कि लंदन लॉज में वह अप्राप्य है। नए ग्रुप का मूल सिद्धांत महात्माओं और उनकी शिक्षाओं में निहित विश्वास और आध्यात्मिक प्रगति से जुड़े सभी मामलों में उनकी इच्छाओं के प्रति अडिग आज्ञाकारिता होना है। इसमें HPB लिखती है, हालांकि यदि किसी सदस्य में यह दृढ़ विश्वास हो कि वह ईमानदारी से आध्यात्मिक प्रगति के सभी मामलों में अडिग आज्ञाकारिता से पेश नहीं कर सकता, तो ऐसा सदस्य इनर सर्कल से बाहर निकल सकता है। इस आश्वासन और जानकारी से कि उसके विरुद्ध अपमानजनक आचरण का आरोप नहीं लगाया जाएगा। मास्टर केच लिखते हैं, बशर्ते वह शिक्षाओं के किसी भी अंश को अधोक्षरित की विशेष अनुमति के बिना बोली या पत्रों द्वारा सार्वजनिक नहीं करेगा। फ्रांसिस्का अरुंडेल लिखती है, अंत में हमारे श्रद्धेय मास्टर्स को यह प्रार्थना प्रस्तुत करते हुए हम आग्रहपूर्वक विनती करते हैं, यदि आपकी स्वीकृति हो तो वे अपने हस्ताक्षरों के साथ इसकी पुष्टि करें और पहले जैसे अपनी शिक्षाओं को जारी रखने के लिए सहमति दे, जब तक कि इस ग्रुप में एक वफादार सदस्य बना रहे। मास्टर के एच लिखते हैं, हमारी स्वीकृति है। प्रतिज्ञा पत्र आपसी है। यह तब तक अच्छा रहेगा जब तक कि अधो हस्ताक्षरी की कृतियां ग्रुप के मूल सिद्धांत में निहित प्रतिज्ञाओं के अनुरूप है और उनके द्वारा स्वीकारित हो। इसमें मास्टर अमौर्य की भी स्वीकृति होती है। थैंक यू। नमस्ते।
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for the translation. I now invite anybody who would like to discuss something, put forth their point of view, or if they have any questions, please unmute yourself and talk. Sir, I think there are no questions, but I want to put forth a point and I would like to know your views on it. Tendulkar, sir?
Yes, Vibhaji.
Sir, Master has mentioned that learn so that you may teach.
Yes.
Now, when we learn these theosophical teachings which have been given to us,
Yes.
we apply them to our life, to transform our life. But the transformation does not happen overnight. It takes time because our weaknesses are due to so many past incarnations. So even before we are self-transformed, we are teaching. So how do you view this?
I think you have raised a very pertinent issue as to whether we are really competent or qualified to teach others
Hmm.
before we have attained certain minimum state as a teacher. But I think in the whole scheme of evolution, there are people who are ahead of us and people who are behind us on the ladder of evolution. And one who is at his particular position is always in a position to help one who is on a ladder below, and in turn receive benefit from one who is a step above the ladder. There is another interesting point which Master has made, that even every individual is a separate evolution, and even the guru benefits from the evolution of the disciple. So it's not that only a person who has reached a stage of perfection or who has succeeded in transform his life in toto is a person who can teach others. I think when we honestly, sincerely feel that we have learned something and that learning has started reflecting in our life, daily life, in our actions, in our feelings, in our speech, in our thoughts, then I think we are little bit in a better position to help others who have not reached that stage. And therefore, it is out of a feeling of helping others with a really honest, good intention, without claiming any authority or right to teach others, we can share our views with others. We can give them the benefit of the exposure which we have received in our life, which others perhaps have not received in their life. So if we take that kind of stand and attitude, I think we may be helpful to others, even if we have not been successful in transforming ourselves to the fullest extent possible. Because perhaps everyone who has advanced also may have many defects, many shortfalls, which need to be corrected and improved upon. So that process will go on till we reach the stage of perfection. Therefore, we need not hesitate to help others simply because we have not been able to reach that stage of perfection. That is what I feel.
Right, sir.
I hope, Vibhaji, if you have any comments on whatever I have said, you are welcome.
No, sir, thank you so much. Yes.
I am like to add something. It's a very good question. The point is that we are all students of theosophy. From the head of the organization, say about our parent body, till a simple member. We are just sharing our views or our thoughts to others, those who want to learn. That is one angle. Then Mahatma, in one of his letter, which I.K. Taimini sir mentioned, the principle of theosophical work. A simple member can teach others. A simple member, if he learn any kind of knowledge which is possible on his part or her part, he or she can teach others. The uniqueness of Professor Taimini is he never quote anyone, but all his writing is coming from Mahatma Letter or from Secret Doctrine. He guided his writing on the basis of that teachings. So, as a student, we are all students, so we are just sharing our thoughts to others. That is my view.
Vibhaji,
And
Correct,
Professor
yes.
Sindhu. Yes, sir.
to draw your attention to letter number 4, addressed to Francesca Arundel,
Yes.
where Master says that we should encourage inquirers, those who show interest in knowing what is theosophy. So at least that is something which each one of us can do, who has a little more understanding of theosophy, theosophical teachings, who may or may not have practiced theosophy in actual daily life. And yet we have got theoretical understanding of theosophy, and who can at least satisfy that curiosity of inquirers and create that interest further. So that much at least each one of us can do, as Masters has advised Francesca Arundel, that everyone can do it, he has said there.
The exact wording is, brother, you
Ah.
should, even as a simple member, much
Ah,
more
even
as an officer,
Yeah.
learn that you may teach, acquire spiritual knowledge that to me, it is not possible in one life to become an enlightened. Even
Yeah.
Mahachan said that Buddha has taken, Gautama has taken several lives. So you may acquire, you may teach, acquire spiritual knowledge and strength, that the work may lean upon you, and the sorrowing victims of ignorance learn from you the cause and the remedy of their pain. Exactly.
Yes.
That is so the spiritual knowledge and strength is as per our strength, as per our progress in the evolution, we can share our strength and thought to others. Yes, Sindhu sir is watching us very.
Now, we all are national lecturers who are speaking here. So we are given this assignment to teach others, actually. In that way, we are teachers, just like in a classroom. But this teaching, what we are doing, it is just passing the thoughts from one book to the other, or from one person to the other. But here the Mahatma letter says, you try to understand and teach others. So here teaching is living. So if you live what we have grasped, that living itself becomes the way of teaching. And we cannot teach anybody unless we live.
Yes.
And this is what it happens. I also asked Radha Bernier. See, when I became the member and I was a professor in college, and she immediately made me a national lecturer. I said, I have to study first and then I can teach. No, you begin. What it means? So we were studying, remembering, and whatever we were remembering, we are passing as per our understanding. That is what we are doing, that work. That is not the teaching. But doing this, we started living theosophical life. I became the vegetarian, I became sincere, I became punctual. All these people, they follow. So this is how theosophy is not for teaching, but for living. So that teaching, I think, here Master used this word, live theosophy. Try to understand and live theosophy, what we have understood. This is what Krishnamurti also said. Can we die to our ambition, to our urgency of gathering money? Can we die to our position, power, and envy of another? So these are many things to which we have to die. Then people will learn from us. That is our responsibility, I think. This is our religion of responsibility. And the religion is to relate. So whatever we have understood, that should relate to our life. Thank you, Vibhaji, giving and all this good question you asked.
Thank you, sir, because this was a thing which was on my mind since long time, since when I was appointed national lecturer. So I'm very happy all of you senior members have clarified a lot of things. So with this, we come to the end of today's meeting. Sir, Pradeep sir, is there any announcement?
Announcement next week, there will be no Mahatma letter class. So we will start on next, that will be on 22nd.
Okay.
Second level. The 15th, there will be no class.
Okay.
So now we can close it.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining. We now come to the end of the session. Let us close with the closing prayer. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya
Om Asato Ma Satgamaya
Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya
Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu
Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu
Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu
Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu
Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu
Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu
Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu
Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu
Lokaha Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu
Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu
Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah
Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah
Sarve Santu Niramaya
Sarve Santu Niramaya
Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu
Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu
Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet
Ma Kashchit Dukha Bhag Bhavet.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shant Shant.
Thank you all for joining. Namaste.
Thank you.